And good evening to everybody out there in the chat. Welcome to another Rangers Rabble pre-match. This time for Kilmarnock versus Rangers is the official way to do it. And I am your host. I'm Ian. I'm going to host this again. I keep getting punished for some reason. And with me tonight, I've got Connor. How you doing, Connor?
Aye, not bad, Ian. Not bad. Looking forward to it tonight. Hoping that we'll go there and just pick up for where we left off at the weekend. That'd be smashing.
That would be great. We'll see. We'll get into it in a minute. Mark, how are you doing?
I'm all good, mate. All good. Good to be back. It's been a wee while since I've been on.
Yeah, and if I wave, you can probably see me from my house because you're just off the coast of where I live. And Stuart, been a while. Welcome back.
Well, I was on last night. I jumped on that random.
I meant with me.
Oh, yes, with yourself. Yes, absolutely. Yep, the same as Connor. Looking forward to tonight. Big game, but I'm quietly confident.
Yeah. I've got a little bit of nerves and a little bit of trepidation, but overall confident. Well, we'll start considering where we're playing. We'll talk about Kilmarnock and Rugby Park. Listening briefly to the presser, Connor. I don't know if you've heard it or not today, but Clement was talking about the fact that the game will be different because of the pitch it's on. He's not using the pitch as an excuse. It's just because of the different pitch. So the game will be different. Do you think the pitch is made a bigger issue by the fans, or do you think the pitch is actually that big of an issue to play on?
Well, I think obviously it gives Kilmarnock a slight edge in that they play on it, pretty much every other week. So they're used to it. But if we go out and impose ourselves on the game and try and play our football, I think we'll be fine. I mean, look, there are certain things that change. It's not, you can't necessarily move it about as fluently on the AstroTurf. And I think we'd all agree we'd rather be playing on a grass pitch. But, I think over the years that Kilmarnock have had that pitch, it's certainly played its part in certain results that they've picked up against us and the other side of the city. That being said, I don't care what pitch you're playing on. You could be playing on the old red ash pitches. At the end of the day, we need to go out there and just, make sure we pick up the 3 points. Start of the season, it wasn't a pretty affair. I'm sure it won't be a classic tonight in terms of the style and brand of football that you'll see on that surface. But for me, it's not, it's not an excuse that you can, you just get a bye for these games because the pitch isn't perfect. We went up to Perth a couple of weeks ago in McDermott Park, and albeit that was grass, that was not a great pitch at all to be playing on, and we managed to, get away through that game and get the 3 points, and I'm expecting nothing less tonight.
Yeah, I mean, we play, like someone's mentioned in the comments, we train on a plastic pitch. Probably our training pitch is probably actually a better quality than Rugby Park anyway. And to be fair to Kilmarnock, they're getting shot of it at the end of the season, and grass is going back. Because I remember Rugby Park from back when I used to be able to go to away games when I lived up there, and it was a pretty decent grass pitch from what I remember. It was an enjoyable place to play. Mark, Killy at home, quite an informed team. We will talk about Rangers, I promise, but we've got to get the Killy bit out of the way, get it out so we can talk about the good stuff. Another team in form in the league. They've played the Old Firm teams at Rugby Park 3 times, and they have won 3 times. So, can we change that tonight?
100% we can, yeah. It's not going to be easy. I think that these teams, especially, obviously, you just talked about the surface there. For me, this surface should be banned. Professional football shouldn't be played on AstroTurf. I'm sorry, but that's just the way it should be. It's conducive to ACLs. It's conducive to all sorts of injuries and twists and turns and knees and ankles. And for me, it's just bringing extra concern to professional athletes. Sorry, it should be banned. I think that I understand why they have it, because obviously it generates extra money for the clubs. But I'm sorry, for me, if I was part of the SPFL board, that would be banned, and you wouldn't be allowed to play on it. They will not water it when it's watered. The ball moves quicker. You can zip the ball about 100%. They will make sure if it's not raining in Kilmarnock.
It's pissing down, Mark, up here. It's absolutely pissing down. So
generally they will keep it bone dry so that it sticks and it's horrible and it's no nice to play on. So that's probably our advantage, that it is wet up there. But Kilmarnock, good side. Stuffy side. They're well organised. In recent years, they've got probably the best kind of squad I think they've had for a while. They've got guys that can work hard, but they've also got a wee bit of talent in there now as well. They've got a couple of boys that they've got a wee bit about them that are tricky, that can set up goals, can make things happen as well. So they're not just a one-dimensional side that are going to just sit back and soak up pressure and play for a draw. So for me, they're a decent side. Should we beat them? Yes. On paper, yes. The surface is a great leveler as far as I'm concerned. But no, I think it should be, as it stands at the minute, we're in a crest of a wave. I think that games like this, we should be taking them a stride. I think that this is what I think. It's just, as Clement said, one game at a time, and this is just the next obstacle in the way. I think that we should be worried about what we're going to do rather than what they're going to do, and I think that's the way Clement has got the team thinking. So for me, I think it will be stuffy. I think that it'll be a bit of a battle, but for me, you match that intensity, you match that fight, then the cream always rises to the top as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, and Stuart, just before I come to you for the last little bit on Kilmarnock, I just want to shout this one out for James McLean becoming a YouTube channel member for the Rabble. Well done for that. I don't know if you've just renewed it or it's not a name I recognise. Oh my God, my camera's gone again. Hang on, bear with me, I'm coming back. He says, no, he's not coming back. I don't know why. I'll sort it out in a minute while Stuart's talking. Just bear with me. So, Stuart, just deal with the blank screen for now, but I'm sure you can still hear me. The Killy team, that's what I get told quite a lot. That's what my wife generally says when the lights go off. You look amazing. But the Killy team, like Mark was saying, it's a decent team. They're a decent team. They've had a decent season. They're fourth, some way off Kilmarnock, off Heart, sorry, but having a decent season by all ins. And this comment here, they've got depth as well now. So they've got players that can come off the bench and make a change. We know that it'll probably be Kennedy, Armstrong, and the Cell up front tonight. But they've got that they can turn it around, that 60-minute mark, and turn it around. How switched on do our midfield and back four have to be for these guys tonight?
Yeah, so I think Martin Wolf and I had a bit of a brief chat about this last night on the pod, where I'm a big believer in one. I think our fans hype these games up a wee bit too much now. I think we've heard people talking about, we get beat there on the opening day of the season. This is a completely different Rangers team to what it was in the opening day of the season. I don't think there is a comparison to be made. The style of football we're playing, the mentality, etc., looks completely different. So for me, we will face a decent team tonight who we know will be really well organised. McInnes will have that. For me, it's about what we do. So again, is the attitude going to be right? Is the game plan right? And I think we've seen over recent weeks that we should trust the manager and the players in that. What I do think we need to do is we need to play with pace and we need to play with tempo. So I'm glad that it's pissing down, because I think that will help with that pitch. If you don't play with pace and tempo against this Kilmarnock side, McInnes will have them so well drilled that they then become really difficult to break down. Whereas if you're playing with the pace and tempo and you can get the ball out wide and maybe isolate fullbacks, etc., then I think that's where you can get at them. Yes, their bench looks stronger than probably what it has been for a few years. I would say our bench is starting to look stronger, not probably for a few years, but certainly looking stronger, as strong as we've seen it for certain parts of this season. So, what we need to do is to really nullify the impact of the bench by already being ahead and then actually making the changes, which we've seen recently. We've got players that can come on who are desperate to impress, desperate to stake their claim, that will then make a difference for us. So, like I say, I'm quietly confident tonight. It's not to say that this isn't going to be a hard game or anything like that. Kelly will make it tough. But as Mark says, and I think Clement said, it doesn't matter whether we're playing them in the car park. 3 points is a must, and we are better players than Kilmarnock, and that should see us through as long as we get the mentality right and the game plan right.
Can I just jump in there? Van Veen on the bench. See the amount of Rangers fans that gave me dogs abuse for me saying not a chance, Van Veen. Gave me dogs abuse. Dogs abuse. This man can't get in the Kelly squad. Enough said. Thanks very much.
And then with that, we will stop talking about Kilmarnock because it's not a Kilmarnock podcast at all. I just wanted to get them out of the way because then we can move on to the proper things and talk about Rangers and what the rest of them. What we're here for is to find out what the team is. I have the team. I will start showing it right now. And there it is. So we have Butland and go, Tavernier, Goldson, and Suter to start. Barisic comes in for Ridvan. Lundstrom, Diomande, and Lawrence is that midfield three. And Cortez, McCausland, and Silva there. I got a little bit worried then because Connor had stopped moving, but he is still with us. That's good to see. Your thoughts on that starting 11, Connor?
I'll mute myself. Yeah, listen, I think the only real surprise in the starting 11 is Barisic. I think everybody else, you would have expected to be in there. I can only think that, when we were talking before we come on, there is the rotation thing that's going on between the two of them, between Barisic and Ridvan, and I think that's going to, remain that way till the end of the season, and until one of them end up out the door. But I also, maybe there's a part of come on also realising that Barisic has got a bit more experience in terms of dealing with playing on that pitch than Ridvan. I think Ridvan's only actually played at Rugby Park once or twice, really, since he's been in the door, whereas Barisic obviously has a number of years of experience of playing and dealing with that surface. So, that could be part of the thinking in there as well. But, listen, it's a strong squad. It's a strong starting line up there. And, you're hoping that Cortez and Diomande, it'll be interesting to see how they get on. They've started very, very well. Both of them, both scored excellent goals at the weekend. Diomande's obviously scored in the last two games, so be nice to see if he can pop up with another goal tonight. But it will be a different challenge for them because, again, this will be the first time they'll have played, on this surface against Kilmarnock. So, interesting, but I think it's as strong as we could go. Maybe I think the only other, I don't want to say question mark, the only other thing you can maybe look at is Silva and for Dessers, but to me, again, much like with the Barisic Ridvan situation, you're going to see that. I think game by game that's going to change. Silva will play 1 week and then Dessers will probably end up coming back in against Motherwell on Saturday. I think that's just the nature of the beast. And also, I think Silva does need to keep getting that game time and hope he can pick up more goals as well. He did get one against Hearts, which I'm sure will do him the world of good. So, all in all, as I say, other than the two I mentioned there, it's pretty much as you would have expected it to be tonight.
Yeah, and Mark, moving on down the team, obviously with Borna being in, which was a bit of a surprise. Brian, our very own Brian, bringing in this, and it can't be the only one slightly worried about McCausland starting. Do you think that's fair or unfair on Little Ross?
My question would be why? Why is he worried about McCausland starting? For me, I don't know. For me, if you think about most of the youth this day and age, majority of them playing AstroTurf. They're probably playing more in AstroTurf nowadays than they do in grass. So I would say that probably out of everybody that's on that pitch in that Rangers side, he's probably played the most in this 4G, 5G, whatever you want to call it, AstroTurf as far as I'm concerned. But he's probably the one that's played most on that surface so far in his career because of that kind of the way the youth works in this country. So for me, I've no qualms whatsoever with playing him. I think that he's at a standard where he is a Rangers first team player. So for me, he's not done anything drastically wrong that I can see that it would go, oh no, what are we playing him for? So I don't see where he's coming from with it. I really don't. But for me, I mean, who do you play otherwise? Do you play Sterling in there? Possibly, but for me, I think that he's looking. He knows what he's going to face here at Kilmarnock, and he knows that probably that he's looking for probably a wee bit more guile from the wider players. Hence the reason why he's moved. He's put Silva through the middle for his movement to try and create space for your wide players and your 10 to run into. So for me, that's his game plan rather than. I think probably he went with Sterling for his physicality more than anything else against Hearts. So, and it worked. And listen, everything he's done so far has worked. So, for me, I'm not questioning anything that Clermont's doing as far as I'm concerned. Until I see something otherwise, then I've no qualms with anybody he's picked. As I said, he's working this rotation thing. He's trying to keep everybody fit and hungry. And listen, it seems to be working for him. So, who are we to go against it? Anything Clermont's doing at the moment, as far as I'm concerned, they can do no wrong. So yeah, no, I'm quite happy with the side. You could have, like Connor said there, you could have put Ridvan, Barisic. Both of them are probably going to give you roughly the same. Obviously, you could argue Ridvan's been in better form of recent games as well. So, but maybe he's just trying to keep him hungry. Silva, same. Silva, for me, his movement's fantastic. All right, he maybe no score goals, but we've sat here a couple of months ago talking about who's going to really lead the line and this and that, and it looks as if what he's done is the way he's working it, he's bringing them in and out, keeping them hungry, and they're both scoring goals. So I mean, obviously, everybody's got a bee in their bonnet about the amount of chances Dessers misses, but. Listen, he's still putting the ball in the back of the net. So, as I said, for me, I have no real qualms with the starting lineup, and I don't think you can question really anything that he's done because, as I said, he's not put a foot wrong.
No, I'd agree with that. I mean, I have said in a previous pod that maybe McCausland, because of when he came into the team, looked maybe better than he had done, but he's not let us down in any way, shape, or form. He's improved. By being in that first team, so I'm not too worried about him playing. Just
on that point, Ian, he's a young boy and he's a winger. Now, all wingers are notoriously blow hot and cold, and the fact that he's a young boy, he's going to blow hot and cold. And the only way he's going to go over slight dips in form and raises in form, and as I say, it's that whole peaks and troughs thing is to play him. So let him play his way out of it. As I said, he's not really done anything to warrant the for fuck's sake brigade getting on his back. So for me, no a big deal whether he plays or he doesn't play.
He's going to put someone on the right hand side. It's either going to be him or it's going to be Scott Wright. And out of the two, you're playing McCausland, aren't you? So Stuart going in now. I think I've listened to a fair few different Rangers pages today and listened to what they've said, and it's a fairly not hefty split. It's a really equal split between Silva and Dessers at the minute. Particular ones who just don't like Dessers, who don't want him to play. But for the most part, it seems to be a big 50-50 split on who would have started tonight. He's gone with Silva. Do you think Dessers, the game probably would have suited Dessers more? Because we know that the Kilmarnock back four can be a bit physical. Or is Mark right that using Silva to create the space good with his feet and all that is I mean, obviously it's Clermont, we've got to trust what he's doing, but is it the right way to go using Silva against what is a tough back four?
Look, so I think when it comes to just overall, firstly on this rotation, I think you've got Butland, I think you've got Tav, I think you've got Goldson and Lundstrom. you might at the moment throw Cortez into that just because Seema's injured, but when Seema's back, I don't think that is. Diomonde's probably playing himself into a position where he doesn't get rotated, but I then think every other position will be rotated through the season, and what you actually might see is Diomande might actually move position at times through it. So the manager's been very clear on this rotation. He mentioned it again in his press conference. So, the fact that Ridvan isn't playing doesn't mean that Ridvan isn't his number one choice at left back. It's just that he's absolutely clear that he's going to do this to make sure people are physically at the top level for how he wants to play and for certain games. I said last night, it would not surprise me in the training centre at the start of the week, team sheets are put up for the 3 games, and barring injury or whatever, that players already know what's going to happen. So at the weekend, Silva would have known that Dessers was starting, and then he would have known that he would have been starting tonight. I think McCausland starting and Cortez because I think we want to stretch the pitch. I think we want to make it as wide as possible. And I do agree with Mark. I think Silva's in there for his movement to drop deep. I think there's also something in relation to. I was slightly surprised. I said this last night as well. I was slightly surprised that Silva and Dessers played for as long together as they did at the weekend, because it feels as if, because we've not really got another option up top, he's trying to add a bit of protection in there. So if you're playing both of them or whatever, then there's more chance that both of them can get injured, and then we're left with literally nobody in that position. So I think that's playing into it. Agree with Mark, got to trust the manager on this, but I think Silva's movement, and like I say with McCausland and Cortez, I think what we want to do is make the pitch as big as possible to try and stretch them, and McCausland give you that genuine width, whereas a Sterling naturally won't do that. That's not his game. So I'm not surprised by anything in that team, and I think that, like I say, I think we probably just need to kind of take a step back with this rotation issue that seems to be cropping up, because the manager is telling us that is what's going to happen. So I don't think we should be surprised when it does.
That seems to be more of a case of we're not used to having a proper manager at the helm who kind of knows what he's doing.
Managing the players, and
exactly.
These vests that they wear that give them all the stats and all the info, all of that will be feeding into, right, you're starting, you're going to get 70 minutes or whatever, all of that will be feeding into this.
Exactly. The same way that Roof, he was very clear in his press conference today that today's not the day for Roof. So he's out, which gives the chance to somebody else. Taking the advice from the medical team saying that this is not the game for Kemar Roof. It's not worth the risk. Same does not apply to Tom Lawrence, which I think a fair few people might have thought that Lawrence wouldn't have played today again because I've said what aforementioned pitch, Connor. Are we beginning to get the Tom Lawrence that we've all wished we could have had all of last season?
Yeah, possibly. I mean, look, I think the stop-start nature he's had this season as well as last has hampered him slightly, but we do seem to be getting consistently solid performances out of him, and I think the key is making sure we do keep him fit, and I think you're right. Tonight you might have, wouldn't have surprised you if Tom Lawrence hadn't been starting tonight, but ultimately he's on good form. He's delivering the goods, and there's no reason to drop him, particularly when you're already in this squad without a couple of players that you might have had in. Otherwise, obviously Cantwell's not in tonight, and we mentioned Kilamarnock there. So I think, to be honest, I think had Cantwell been available, Lawrence probably wouldn't have started. But I think the fact that he's not, and the fact that Tom's firing on all cylinders at the moment, or certainly close to it, gives all the reason that you need to put him in there. And don't get me wrong, listen, that's not to detract for. I think as the game goes on, it'll be interesting to see what we do with big Diomande Sterling on the bench as well. I think, will he come on in the Lawrence role in the middle of the park? Will he do what he done against Hearts and bring him on down in the wing? But it'll be interesting to see, because he seems to have turned up in all those positions. But in terms of Lawrence, though, I think we're getting close to what we were, hoping to have seen out of him before he picked up his injuries. That's for sure.
Well, I think when we come to Sterling, the manager's just looking around at him and going, "Where do you want to play?" And he says, "Everywhere." And that's pretty much how Sterling goes. The player who was in for the press conference today was Mohamed Diomande. There wasn't a great deal of football talk with his bit. It was the mainstream, and Mark's he's had enough. Don't want to talk about Diomande. He's out. So Stuart, this will go to you now. Oh no, he's coming back, Paul. This will go to you now. The mainstream media in Scotland, we have a go at them all the time, but they did barely ask him any footballing questions. They were just solely stuck on the fact that when you were 11, you had a Rangers kit. Why did you have a Rangers kit when you were 11? What made you want to be a Rangers player? Is it because you had a Rangers kit when you were 11? And to be fair to him, I think he batted him off quite well. How impressed have you been with Diomande since he came in?
He looks a right good talent, doesn't he? And I mean, the manager said this in his press conference that, this won't be his last stop. If he keeps himself fit, then he has the ability to go to a higher level than Scottish football. He's got a composure about him. He's great at just finding these pockets of space. It looks as if him and Lundstrom love playing with each other as well already. It looks as if they've got a right good partnership.
That's a turn of phrase. That one's getting clipped.
Well, that's true, yes. But yeah, look, I think Connor's talked about, actually mentioned, he will have played for tonight. I think the Danish league has freaking AstroTurf pitches all over the place. So actually, Diomande is probably well suited to what he's probably going to face tonight. But he's made an impact. And I think when you come to a club like Rangers, getting off to a start like he has done, and Cortez as well, there's flashes there. It just gives you that bit of breathing space. The fans can see what you're all about. And I think his versatility as well, the number of positions that it'll be interesting to see come the summer when people move out and the manager can bring others in. Where is he? Is he going to be that kind of sitting as part of that too, or do we see him slightly further forward? I think that'll be really interesting. But he looks a right good bit of business, and from what you read about it, it was that area of the park wasn't necessarily one that the manager was absolutely desperate to fill, but when it became known that he was available and we were probably going to have to move, then he kind of made it a priority. And I think you're starting to see why that is. We could, and you say this at the moment, we could have a gem in our hands here. Very impressed with him so far.
Yeah, I think if we waited till the summer, he's not a Rangers player. I think he goes.
No, he goes 100%.
He goes somewhere on continental Europe for big money. I'm glad we got him in now. He'll no doubt fall in love with his club if he hasn't already. I like his humour, because obviously coming into the dressing room after Ivory Coast beat Nigeria with his Ivory Coast kit, getting changed next to Big Balogun as well. So they have a bit of a laugh, which was something that the manager did state in his press conference today, that the players in training they seem to be a lot more relaxed, although still intent on doing what they're doing, but they're much more relaxed around each other. The atmosphere has certainly changed. They're having a laugh with each other. I think he mentioned that Suter, with his ball in for Dessers at the weekend, he was just getting looks from other players and they're going, "How did you do that? That's you. How are you doing that?" And all the rest of it. So it seems like the atmosphere within the team now is changing, Mark, for the better compared to what we've had before, where we've had this sort of, they've always looked like they're walking into games nervous that if they get something wrong, whereas now they know they can get something wrong, but as long as they amend it and learn from it, they're there as a team. And I think that's massive for tonight as well, going in as a team, as opposed to this nervous wreck that we were before. Can you see the positive impact that the atmosphere at Ibrox is now? Mark.
Yeah. I think that probably the big difference is that the fans believe in this team now, whereas before we didn't. Before we were going into games hoping and praying that we were going to get a result. Whereas now I think that we've got the confidence in this team that with every any mistake will know properly on their backs now. And I think that the problem was that when you're watching poor performance after poor performance, I think the frustration sometimes gets the better of us as fans, and it's that whole you make a mistake or a misplaced pass, we're on their backs, and now it's a case of, do you know what, these things happen. And I think probably it's more of a mentality shift for us as fans rather than anything else. But that's credit to this team. It's credit to Clermont as well. Now we're getting into games confident and upbeat and thinking that we are going somewhere. We see purpose in the team. We see things that we like to see. We're seeing players that are willing to fight for each other. We see a bit of camaraderie, whereas before we never seen that. Before we seen players hiding, players playing the safe ball, the easy ball. No one to take the limelight, no one to grab the game by the scruff of the neck, and no one to put their head above the parapet. So now, as I said, for me, it's a mentality change from us as fans, but also the fact that the team. And to be fair, to a certain extent, our team's mentality changes as well, and I think that's credit to Clermont. As I say, we now go into games expecting to win, expecting good performances, expecting players to perform well. Whereas it was the exception to the rule at the start of the season. You maybe got one good player. I mean, sometimes we watch games and we come away and you couldn't give one player pass marks. Now, where you look at last weekend, we're probably there 4 or 5 that could have maybe been man of the match, and how much of a difference has that been? And as I said, that's over a few months. So, as I said, that I think probably gets the players a wee bit more leeway from the fans is probably what I'm trying to get at. And we're all kind of heading in the same direction. And as I said, we feel as if, I think the players feel as if we're on the up. I think the fans feel as if we're on the up. And I think that Clermont says it all the time, the synergy between the fans and the team is massive. You can actually feel it now. I mean, I was at the game on Saturday, and you could feel the difference in even like just in general, as I said, misplaced pass. It wasn't. There was a couple of mumps and moans, but there was nothing major. Whereas before, there was people veins popping out their neck and going red in the face and screaming and shouting. So, as I said, it's all for the better as far as I'm concerned. It looks as if we've definitely turned a corner, and I think we're the only ways up with this team and Clermont. I really do.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I know there's the few times recently that I've been to Ibrox that, like you said, that one misplaced pass and the place just goes mental and loses it, and that doesn't feel like that's happening. I'll get a taste for it this weekend, but that's a different story. Connor. One of the things I used to have when we had Beale, when we had Van Bronckhorst and all the rest of it is that teams weren't afraid to play against us. Hugo Bauer comes up with this, that teams now fear us. Is he correct? Is our teams now beginning to fear us compared to how they used to? Is it that tide turning finally?
A little bit of that. I mean, I think the form that we're on and the way that we're, just ticking off each game as it comes, getting results. I think Saturday was a big one for us to get to instill that, because to that point, if you were inclined to do so, and some people might have been, that you could say, well, the teams we were beating weren't in great form. We're kind of just ticking off games that need to be ticked off, but Hearts were, I think, the third most formed team in Europe. Never mind in Scotland. That's how good they had been. Albeit, I'm not saying that they're up there with those other teams, but certainly the form table, they were flying, and we absolutely, ripped them to pieces at the weekend. And I think that probably puts a bit of fear in teams because we're capable of that. So I think compared to where we were in the first half of the season, I'd say teams probably fear us a bit more now under Clermont than they did then. And that's full credit to Big Phil and what he's done and what he's getting out of the players, and obviously the 2 boys he's brought in January as well, just adding to that. And I think it is creating that mentality because, you know that tonight, for example, we're going to deal with a lot of low blocking, right? Kilmarnock play some good football in their own right, but tonight they'll defend quite a bit. They'll make it tight. They'll low block and they'll try and catch us on a counter attack. But they will be wary of the fact that we are finding ways to break that down and get goals. And it's not just, tippy-tappy trying to get it into the box. We've got players who've got quality that can hurt you for a distance as well. We've seen that with Diomande in Perth when they were doing the same thing, and we were finding it, difficult to try and break down that barrier and get round them. And he just pops up with an outstanding moment from range, for about 20 yards out, and we're capable of that. And I think teams are seeing that now. So I do think there's a bit of a fear factor there. And listen, that's the way it should be. We are in a title race here. Teams shouldn't be looking forward to playing us thinking, we're going to get something, albeit every professional football team will always believe in any game they go into that they can go and take something. You've got to do that as a player, otherwise you're beat before a ball's kicked. So, no, I think if we keep motoring on, keep doing what we're doing, teams will certainly keep fearing us.
Indeed, let's hope so. And the more we do, as we've done, like you said, this weekend and hopefully tonight, and take on the 2 form teams in our league and battle them would be quite a benchmark for other teams to really then be worried about what's coming. Just to go back onto the back 4 then, Stu, Paul McGarrigle earlier on, I did see it, that's why I started it. Keeping Armstrong quiet is a must. From games previous, I know that him and Borner have had a fair few decent games against each other. They seem to sort of goad each other as the game goes on. How important is it to keep Armstrong quiet? Because he is one of Killy's quality players.
Yeah, he's a danger. Absolutely. You would hope that we nullify that threat by dominating the ball and playing in the right areas of the pitch, i.e. the Kelly half of it. That means that his chances to become that threat are few and far between. So I think the benefit we've now got is that Clermont is now fully aware of the teams that we're coming up against and their strengths and weaknesses. So I'm absolutely sure that discussions about Armstrong have taken place. But I'm even more sure that what he's really installed in our players is to focus on ourselves. And like I say, if we dominate the ball, then that's the best way of nullifying your likes of an Armstrong. He will be a danger. I'm sure he'll, there will be times when he's on the ball, but defensively, we've been solid. So I think we should have a bit of confidence in this team and our ability to deal with whatever challenge Kelly come up with. So keep an eye on him, but it's about us. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah, and another question that Paul did ask was who was the ref? And I'm just going to give it the name. I'm not going to talk about him, but just to let you know, it is David Dickinson who's refereeing tonight for this game. Mark,
he's the real deal, isn't he?
He is the real deal, mate. Every single time someone's going to get that in. Just hope his tan doesn't wash off in the rain that we're having in Kilmarnock tonight. Also, just like to point out that the game isn't on Sky. It will be on RTV or Killy TV. With RTV, it's outside the UK and Ireland, so that might be a good time to shout out our sponsors, NordVPN. So if you find yourself abroad or having to get abroad, nothing wrong with a little bit of NordVPN to get you so you can see the game tonight. The link is in the description, so you can click that and get a 63% discount on that. I do love the random 63% discount. I do think that's brilliant. And also, while you're there, click the other link, which is football prizes. I've been told in no uncertain terms that I am not allowed to spend money at football prizes because we will be bankrupt because the prizes are pretty well decent from what I've heard. So just a shout out for those two. Mark, you were keen to get to them, so let's get to them then and give everyone plenty of time to get drinks together and get themselves sorted and ready for tonight. Your predictions. We'll start with yourself. Where are you going with it tonight?
2-0. First goal scorer. We'll go Cortez. First goal scorer, Cortez. 2-0.
My man, we haven't talked about how calm and so easy that goal he scored at the weekend looked as well. Connor, where are you going?
I'm going to go 3-1 Diomande, first goal scorer.
Okay, and Stu? Ert?
2-0 to me, and I'll go Silva, first goal scorer.
You're going 2-0 as well. Right, then I will go for one of probably the most common scores in football, and I will go for 2-1 because I can see Kelly scoring. And I will go for... Who will I go for? I'm going to go for Tom Lawrence to score. There you go. Have that. So with that, I think we'll give people plenty of time. We've only got like 3 minutes to go now, haven't we, before the game kicks off. I completely forgot it was 2:15 and not 8 o'clock. So good job, Mark, put out that we do score predictions. Well done. So with that, go off and get yourself sorted, and we will see you at the end of the game shortly after full time tonight. Cheers to the chat, and cheers to every single one of you for joining me tonight. And I've done it again.